And welcome back to another episode of the Swandingo Files, where the Dango HO baby. Today I have a special guest, Kristina, a teacher, and also of some very, very valuable lessons for some of us with veterans with PTSD, and also some of the advantages to homeschooling and how she can also help the parents teach. So, how are you doing today, Kristina?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me today.
So, I just want to get into it. So why would you do teaching, considering it can be a very uh, it's not a glamorous profession, as some would say, even though I think it's very important. I think it should be paid more than NBA players, personally, because you do more. Um, but it's just one of those professions you don't get a lot of acknowledgement, I guess you'd say, from people anymore.
Mhm. Well, for me, I've always wanted to be a teacher. I have this story that I walked in my second grade classroom and I looked at my second grade teacher and I fell in love with her. And when I left that year, I told her, I'm coming back after I graduate college and I'm taking your job. And that's exactly what I did. I was able to go through the school system, graduate out the other side. And my first year back, I was able to go back and teach at my original elementary school. My second grade teacher was still there. She was teaching for one more year and then she retired. So I got to teach with her for 1 year and then I helped her retire. And so I kind of took her spot, but not really. But I always had this passion for teaching and learning and helping other people. All three of my brothers had some learning disabilities, difficulties. They were having a hard time going through school. And so luckily I was blessed with a brain that worked in the school setting. And so I was able to help them along as well. And all through, middle school, high school, I would be in those groups that would help other kids learn and develop and things like that. So teaching has always been a passion. And when I first started teaching, it was a lot different than what it is now. We had a little bit more of that glory, a little bit more of that glamour when I first started teaching 27 years ago. And then unfortunately, a lot of things have changed through the system, through the parents, through our society, things like that. And I did the best I could for, like I said, 27 years. And then it's finally is like, I can't do this anymore because I'm not reaching the parents and the families and the kids the way I used to be able to reach them and help them. And so I knew it was time for me to kind of branch out and do my own thing and help parents in a different way.
Why do you think that's happened? Is it just not the parents not involved enough, or maybe one parent not, or only having one parent anymore?
A lot of it has to do with that. We always say, you ask somebody how they're doing, and the key word is almost always, oh, we're so busy. Exactly. Our lives have gotten so filled with so many different things, and two parents working, the parent not staying home with the kids, the busy sports, the busy activities, the long hours at work, all of that has deteriorated, kind of what our families need, that consistency, that schedule, those things. And so unfortunately, it's been a societal change a lot. Yeah.
So how many years did you do or I guess in classroom? I almost said in person, in classroom teaching.
hmm
How,
So,
how
yeah, I was
oh,
in classroom in the building for 25 years. And then the last 2 years of my teaching career, I was actually online. And that was during COVID, but it wasn't because of COVID. I actually got transferred to an online school, and that online school is there all the time. And when I got transferred to that school, it's like, wait a second, I'm able to reach out to parents and teach and work with their kids and the parents at the same time. And it was that little light bulb that kind of clicked, is like, that's what the model of vibrant family education needs to be. And that's what I'm doing now. So it's a hybrid homeschool online school. And so whenever the parents were at that online school with me those last 2 years, I actually ended up doing more coaching of the parents than teaching of the kids because, of course, they were with them more at the house. But I was able to also teach online when those kids were struggling or when the kids needed extra help and, some of the basic lessons and things. But the combination, the teamwork between me and the parents, it was so amazing. It's like, yes, that's what a lot more of our families need.
so are you able to? So how much in a particular week? How much do the kids spend on online or with their parents compared to like just strictly online schooling?
Right. So when they were doing the COVID schooling, they would try to have the kids online with the teachers like 3-4 hours a day. And that's too much for almost anybody, too much screen time. The online school is set up that most of the lessons are on the computer, but you're not in front of a live teacher. Instead, it's videos and activities and things like that that kind of help the kids learn. And then the parents are double checking with the homework and things like that. And then I would come in at 2 or 3 different times during the day and do a reading lesson to make sure that we were getting the reading lesson down. Then I do the math lesson and make sure we got it down. I do the writing lesson and make sure we get that down. And so it was really a nice flow back and forth where the kids weren't on the computer as much as whenever they were trying to do everything online. Does that make sense?
No, it does because of course, like we were talking before, I got 6 kids. I only dealt with 3 during COVID.
Right.
Thankfully, only 3, and
Yeah.
that stressed me out. They were just sitting behind a computer. They were getting these assignments. I didn't understand the software that they were using.
Right.
We got no teaching ourselves, and our kids were just sitting in. Well, we had a sunroom. All 3 of them just they were behind a computer almost all day long, and it's just like,
Headphones on. Yeah, exactly.
well, it's like that's burnout for a kid's brain. You can't. I mean, and that's just leading to more kids wanting to be on iPads and computers, stuff like that, because that's all they did during the whole time.
Exactly. And that's the model that I really want to make sure that we are exploring and helping parents build is that, yes, there's online components. They learn online, they check in with their teachers online, maybe they do some testing online, but then they're offline, hands-on. They're actually writing on paper. They're actually building projects. They're actually going out and exploring. There's so much more to school than just sitting in front of a computer and watching videos and filling out worksheets. And that's the bigger model of Vibrant Family is making sure that we're learning through experiences, we're following family values, we're really looking at how the child learns best because some children watching videos, they pick up things just like this, right? Really fast. Other kids, they have to actually put the pencil to the paper and do it to get it, right? And then other kids need to actually experience, they need to go build. And so you as a parent know usually the way your child learns the best.
Yeah, public schools nowadays just, I mean, for majority of states, I want to say all states, but majority of the states all just end of year test driven. That's it.
Yeah.
So, which doesn't work for, I'd probably say well over 75% of the kids. Probably doesn't work that way for them anymore. Or they just put them on medication and be like, here you go.
Yeah.
Good luck.
And that doesn't work either. No, children need to have their brain breaks. They need to move around. I mean, one of the things I talk about with my families a lot is the homework debate. So parents are like, well, no, they need to come home from school and they need to sit down and do their homework immediately. And I'm like, hold on a second. Think about how their brain is developed. Think about how much exertion they've already put out trying to be good during the day, trying to absorb as much as they can. And then you're asking them to come and sit down at the table immediately and do their homework. Does that really make sense? And a lot of parents, their eyes fly open. It's like, oh, no, wait a second. It's like, no, if you talk to me about homework, it should be they come home, they get a break. They either go play, they go read, they go do it, build with blocks, they do an activity that helps them relax. Maybe they need 20 minutes in the room all by themselves because they've been inundated with noise and sound all day long and they just need quiet space, right? After they've had that break, and they had a snack because think about blood sugar. Blood sugar has to be stable for us to be able to be learning as well. They have a good snack. They've had a break. Then it might be time to sit down and do some homework, right? But you don't want to do that immediately because they're already stressed out. They need that little bit of downtime before it's time to do the homework.
Well, I just learned something because actually he's in 5th grade this year, right? Oh my God, I feel I sound like a bad parent, but I have 6 kids. People, please forgive me.
No.
Yeah, he's in 5th grade this year. His teacher never sends him home with homework. All he ever gets is reading,
Yeah.
and that's all he gets. She's like, she doesn't believe in sending him home with more work after he's been in school all day. And when she said it, it's like that doesn't make any sense, but the way you just put it just made it more crystal clear. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And when I was in the classroom, I did send him homework, but it was always review or extra practice. So they weren't trying to learn something new because that's not appropriate to send something brand new that a child doesn't know or hasn't been taught, right? Or the parents don't understand. But they also need to build those habits. What do we expect kids to do, adults to do? To finish assignments, to be a scheduler, to be able to, follow through with something. And if they don't have that practice with homework, where it doesn't matter if they really mess up, if they can't build those skills on something that doesn't cost anything, what's going to happen when suddenly they do have those responsibilities, they haven't practiced and they don't know how to do it?
Mm. You just opened my brain up to a lot more things. I guess never thought of any of this that way. I was, my way back in school didn't work for me, but I thought that's the way it was supposed to be because
Right.
I did drop out of high school.
Uh-huh.
I did go on to college later on while I was in the military, but I
Right.
mean, I guess our education system is basically broken for how many decades now?
Too many, unfortunately, because like I said, it was working kind of okay when I started 27 years ago, but within 7 years, I was already seeing the breakdown, the deterioration, the changes that needed to happen that weren't happening. Yeah.
So are you doing this whole thing on your own, or do you have staff?
Currently, I am solo. My husband and I are founders of Vibrant Family Education, and we're still building, so we don't have a lot of families that we're working with yet, but we are looking to expand. Currently, we're focusing on getting kindergarten through fifth grade level. But as soon as I get those families who need those higher levels, I'll be bringing in extra staff, extra teachers to help do this with us. Yeah.
And what are key points you teach or talk with and teach the parents about, you know, for their part?
Right, exactly. Well, part of the thing that we want to do with Vibrant Family Education is to also make sure that we're rounding out the whole child. So, it's not just education. So we talk to parents about, like we just did, about homework and scheduling. What is super important in your family to help the schedule, the way the child learns, work well for you and your child, right? Because that's super important. Also, one thing that we've been learning a lot about is brain development and personality traits. And so we talk to families a little bit also about the way their child learns because of their brain and also their personality. So you've heard of introvert and extrovert, right? Well, in school, you pretty much have to be an extrovert. You have to be out there. You have to be going, 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 right? Or else you're the shy kid. You're the one that gets picked on, things like that. And my husband and I were actually both those very shy kids. And we thought there was something wrong with us the whole time we were growing up. Like, why can't we be like those kids, But it was too much for us to do that. And so then as adults, and we're looking back at the system, it's like, we need to tell our kids that it's okay to be like that. And these are some things you can do to stretch yourself to be successful in other ways. Or these are the things that you can do to go and do an activity and then come and take care of yourself. So we're trying to build that whole child picture into Vibrant Education. And so that's a lot of the family coaching that we do, is trying to help parents understand and build those systems in place so that they can be successful in their education.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of parents, and I think that's where I struggle too. I can lead privates in the army,
Yeah.
but when it comes to my kids,
Mhm.
I can't take that same mentality towards a child that I do with, a
Right.
brand new private, E1 in the army.
Yeah.
Completely different, and it doesn't work. I found out, and it's very difficult for me. But that kind of leads me into my next part.
Yeah.
The three, what was it? The three, sorry,
That's
what was
okay.
it again?
3 ways to kind of help prevent the trauma from attaching to your child or impacting your child.
Yeah, because
Hmm.
military, we go deploy, training exercises. We're gone from the family. We're back. That year for the army, we deploy for generally a year at a time. Other branches around 6 months at a time. But either way, it's a long time to be away from kids, family.
Yes.
Kids grow. They develop new habits. You're not the same person, and you're not really the same person either. So, if
Yeah.
you can tell me a little bit more about that, please.
Absolutely. So there's three different things that I really focus on. The first one is communication. And the second one is actually kind of counterintuitive because it's called air your dirty laundry. And the third thing is actually scheduling. So let's go through each of those. The first one is communication. And that's where I learned in my classroom that whenever I walked into the room, no matter how I was feeling, my kids usually kind of picked up on it, right? Actually, take that back. That's number two. Number one, I pick on their moods. Okay, so my kids would come into my classroom and maybe they were super quiet compared to the way they usually are. Maybe they would break down crying when something wasn't going right with an assignment. Maybe they would start picking and, fighting with their neighbor. And as a teacher who knows your kids, there's something wrong. That's not the normal behavior. And so then I would pick up the phone and call home and say, hey, mom and dad, what's going on? Because your kiddo's behavior has changed. And lots of times they would tell me, oh, well, grandma's been in the hospital, so we've been staying late, or, they aren't getting enough sleep, or, oh, they're super, super excited because at the end of the month, we're going to Disneyland, right? Or, oh, well, yeah, our dog is really, really sick and they might not make it much longer. And so those things, of course, impact the child. They didn't think about telling me. And then as a teacher, I'm trying to deal with a change in behavior and trying academics. And I wasn't being able to support that child with those emotions that they were trying to deal with. So the first one is communication. If your child is in an education setting, talk to the educator, let them know. At the beginning of the school year, please get an email address, get a text link, get a phone number, whatever you need. So if something like that comes up, you can just shoot that teacher a message and let them know, because then instead of the child getting in trouble for their behavior, they're getting the support they need to be able to handle those emotions. And the teachers also may be able to adjust some assignments or adjust some expectations. Now, the key with that, though, is don't take the expectations away, because if you take everything away, oh, you're having a bad day, so you don't have to do any assignments. You can just sit and read all day. Or, oh, you're having a bad day, don't worry about that assignment. We'll just rip that one up. Now you're telling your child you can't handle it, or I can give up whenever I want. So it's not take the expectations away, it's called adjust the expectations. So number one is making sure you're communicating with that educator, the person who's with your child, the other majority amount of the time, right? So that they can help support and the child doesn't get beaten down in that situation. Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't. I never thought of it that way. Kids going to school, they're out of their element due to some life event that has happened.
Exactly.
And I guess at school, you always think your kid's should always act the same no matter what at school in front of, their peers and their teachers. And, just littlest tiny thing can throw a kid off, and especially the young ones. And
especially the young ones. Yeah.
oh, I know. I got a lot.
And so if you're thinking that in a veteran or a military point of view, you said you were put out on deployment. So all of a sudden you weren't there and your wife was trying to deal with all the kids without you, kind of thing. So those kinds of heads up, if your educators don't know you're a military family, it's important to let them know, we're having a change. Instead of having two parents at home for the next 3-4 weeks, months, whatever, now we're going to be single. So that way the teacher knows, that change. So that communication with the educator is super important.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of people really understand that, parents leaving for, a training exercise can be a month long.
Right.
Deployments anywhere from 6 months to a year. I know at one point it was up to 18 months for the Army.
Yeah.
And, that for a kid, that's a good chunk of their life. And then when you leave, they start to get adjusted to you not being there finally. And then you come home and that's another adjustment for the kid. That it's another disruptor in their life. So
that leads into number 2, which I said, and you kind of laughed. It's called air your dirty laundry. So when I was in my classroom, it was really amazing. As I got to know my students got to know me. If I walked into the room and I was super, super sad, they would pick up on it, because I was a teacher who really tried to keep my personal life out, because at school time is academic time. They don't need to know a lot about me except that I care about them and I want them to be successful. But they could still pick up on the mood, right? If I walked into the room and I was super excited, super happy, they picked up on the mood. And it could change the whole direction of the day. If they were a super good class and they realized I was kind of sad, they'd be super caring that day or super quiet that day and just really try to be really, really, on task and everything, even more than normal. If they were kind of a rowdy crew, boom, they were gone. And I was working all day long to kind of bring them back in and kind of get them under control again. But so after a few years, I realized that it's okay to share at least a little bit. And so on those days that were super, super bad, and I talk about the months that my father was in intensive care, he was dying of cancer. I had rough days, I hear this person I cared about. So I would talk to them and just say, Mrs. Heagh-Avritt's having a sad day, I appreciate you doing the best you can. And don't think it has to do with you. It's not from you. So I tell the parents the same thing. Talk to your kids, air your dirty laundry a little bit, what they can handle. So if you're having a really, really bad day, tell them, because otherwise they're like, what did I do wrong? Why is mom and dad yelling at me? Did I mess up? Right? They think it's them. Lots of times they internalize it to them instead of realizing that there's other factors in the situation. So that's one of those things that, it's really super important that when you're dealing with a huge trauma or a big family change, to have those communications, those talks, let them know. And then also give yourself grace, you're going to blow up. You're going to have your bad day. You're going to yell, but then go talk to your kiddo. I apologize. I'm sorry. I should have handled it better. What can we do better next time, kind of thing. But give yourself the grace too, because you're dealing with a lot, especially, PTSD, anxiety, whatever, knowing that you're going to be gone, whatever the triggers are for you, but let them know so they don't internalize it and think, oh, I'm the problem. Does that make sense?
That is actually makes perfect sense, and I'm guilty of it, blowing up on my kids. And I don't think I was doing it directly to them.
Right.
It's just it was something small, and I was already, you know, at that point where I was just done.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for my wife, she's taught me a lot, especially with speaking with the kids and like, hey, this is why. Instead of just yelling at him, especially my autistic child, we yelling at him does absolutely nothing.
Oh, good.
So she's taught me how to speak to them at their level and to communicate and express emotion. And when we're angry, and just understand with them that, hey, I might just need a few minutes or an hour or two. Just, come at me later. I'll come back and
Exactly.
everything will be just fine.
Yep. Or set up that time. I can't talk to you right now. I know I'm at my wit's end. Please come back in 20 minutes, or we will talk about it at 5 o'clock tonight. Or for the little ones who can't tell time, right after dinner, we'll talk about it, So set up that time. Yeah. I call it the spidey sense. The kids just know. Have you ever tried to keep like a vacation or something special hidden from them? They just know. They just like, there's something going on. So yeah, that spidey sense is there in those kids especially.
I can't hide anything from my kids. It doesn't matter what. My wife doesn't help either. So
Right? Exactly. So that takes us to the third thing. And the third way that I talk about helping make sure that the trauma doesn't get passed on is actually to have a schedule, to actually have a routine. Because if you think about things, probably with your autistic child the most, if they know what's happening, if they know what the schedule is, if they have a routine, they're more settled because they're not always wondering what's happening next, right? Well, and then think about this. If you're having a really rough day, you've been triggered or whatever's going on, you're having a really rough day. Do you want to try to think of what's next either? No, it's easier to have a schedule, have a routine that you can fall back on and just keep that schedule going, and keep that momentum and that ease of flow going so that it's less emotional, any less, less up and down with you. So like kids and food. We talked a little while ago before the show that we talked about blood sugar levels. Think about it. Like we all know our body needs a certain blood sugar level. We know we need to have good food in us. And if our blood sugars are going up and down, our emotions most of the time are going up and down, we can handle less. Kids are even more susceptible to that lots of times. Sleep is the same way. Try to keep their sleep routine consistent as much as possible. Now, I'm not saying be, totally as strict as like the military schedule, right? But if they kind of know, or they pretty much know this happens and then this happens in our household, everybody can fall back on that schedule and be kind of settled when those really bad days are happening.
Yeah, and I think I need to get we need to get on a better schedule than what we are, but we're not too far off. Bedtime, wake up time.
Yeah,
Even down to brushing your teeth at when you first get up,
right.
getting dressed.
Mhm.
If my wife works too right now, so if she can't be here in time, older brother steps up and kind of helps the littler ones,
Right.
get going. So it's it's kind of unique seeing how they kind of gel together with
Mhm.
the schedule, knowing that hey, this is what we got to do, and if we get it done, hey, we can go play for 20, 30 minutes, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. You're building in those little automatic rewards, oh, hey, I'm on schedule. I got everything taken care of. Now there's this little pocket of time that's a little bit more free and open to go do something. Love it. Yep. It's a great way to do it.
So, how do people get a hold of you? Your social media, website, stuff like that?
Exactly. So you can find Kristina Heagh-Avritt on Facebook. And we also have a website, vibrantfamilyeducation.com. So either place, Kristina Heagh-Avritt on Facebook or vibrantfamilyeducation.com. That's our website. You can set up a parent-teacher conference, and I promise I'll be a nice teacher, not a mean teacher, and we'll talk about some of these kinds of things and see how I can maybe help you out, or just maybe an education question, things like that. The other thing that my husband and I both do is we have a podcast called Bringing Education Home. And we have been collecting experts on reading, brain science, math, teen communication, all those different things. So if you want to check out our podcast, and again, you can just go to bringingeducationhome.com. That's our podcast. Go in, listen to some of those episodes, and see the value that hopefully we're bringing to parents as well.
So let me ask you, so you've been a teacher for 27 total years now. How do any of your students still contact you?
They don't contact me, but it was always amazing whenever they would come back, because I was teaching the younger grades, elementary, second and third grade the most. But when they would graduate, it was always such an amazing day when those seniors would walk in the building and say, "Hi, remember me?" And they're like this big, right? And they're like talking to me and sharing all the things that they have planned in their life and things like that. Part of the reason they don't contact me is because I've always thought that it was important to have that division between my personal life and school, because again, there's personal life and school, and so they don't, but a few have come back on Facebook like, "I found you, Mrs. Hayward, how are you doing?" Kind of thing. So once they're older, then I have a little bit more contact, but yeah, it was mostly when they came back. It's so heartwarming whenever I would get a thank you card from those seniors as well. They would send it to the school. "Thank you. I remember second grade because of A, B, or C." And then just the other day, I was at the grocery store. It was just amazing because I was walking through the parking lot and the kiddo was pushing the carts, getting them put in. And he's like, "Mrs. Haver, do you remember me?" It's like, "Well, yeah, Ryan, how are you doing?" He's like, "I'm graduating, and not only am I graduating with my diploma, I'm going to be graduating with my associate's degree, and I'm going to be heading off to college to become a history teacher." And so just because I live in the community I used to teach in, those kinds of connections are just always so special to me.
That sounds pretty cool. So out of 27 years, what was your favorite part of second and third grade to teach to the kids?
Hmm. That's a good one. Field trips are always a blast.
That doesn't count.
That doesn't count. Okay, fine. I did a really amazing insect unit for quite a while, and we would turn the insects into a great big poster, and then the kids would get up and talk about the different body parts and the life cycle and things like that. And they absolutely loved that. And then of course we'd go out and try to catch the insects out of the play yard and things like that. That was always amazing. And then another after school event is we had a safety fair, and that's where we would actually teach bicycle safety, fire safety. We brought in helmets for the kids and things like that. And the kids really enjoyed bringing their bikes to school and getting to ride around a track, try to do their hand signals and all that kind of stuff. So those kinds of things were always amazing.
That sounds like fun. I wish I had a teacher like you growing up because most of mine, I'm not saying all, but I had some good teachers that I remember. Of course, all mine are a lot older now, but I think your site, what you're doing now, the homeschooling and the parent coaching also, I think that's going to be a lot more rewarding for parents in the long run, and you're going to see bigger gains with their kids if the parent understands what is going on.
Right.
So I'm really rooting for you. I'm in your corner.
Thank you.
I really hope you blow this up because a lot of people are looking to go to homeschooling, but they need that help. I was going to ask you though, so when homeschooling, so all the accreditations and everything, you guys have all that for the homeschooling and
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm a licensed teacher, the program that I'm with will have proper accreditation and things. But also, even if you don't go with homeschool, doesn't get really accredited, but there's still ways that you log things, you write things down that totally covers everything. So don't be afraid of that. You might need some coaching and guidance as to how to write things down on a transcript for your homeschool child, but it's completely possible and plausible for them to go on to college and stuff if that's what they choose. One of the things that we think about at Vibrant Family, though, is that not all kids are made for school. Not all kids are made for college, right? So we really want to make sure that in our program, we're having kids explore what they want to do. And because a lot of our families are probably either small business owners or entrepreneurs because they have that freedom to be with their child and do the program at home. Think about all these kids are going to grow up watching that and know how to do that if that's where they want to go as well.
yeah, and I think that's our public schools push
College.
college and universities on every kid, and I guarantee you, my teachers could have looked at me and been like, "No, he ain't going. No, he can't even sit still for 5 seconds. He's sitting there turning upside down in the middle of class and doing all these whatever." I was just whatever,
Yeah,
but it's
and
like,
there's kids who want to go to college or want to be something that has to have college, doctors, lawyers, teachers, etc. Absolutely help get them. But all of those don't need to do that or don't necessarily want to do that. Let's get them back into the trades. Let's get them back into other things that help our society. Because how many homeowners don't know how to fix a drain anymore? How many homeowners don't know how to do the simplest thing around their house? And so we need those tradespeople, and we're losing that all the time right now.
I don't think people realize that they've learned this basic household upkeep and car maintenance, how much money they would actually save
Oh
when
yeah.
first going to a mechanic or calling out a repairman or stuff like that for the small stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I appreciate you coming on, Kristina. And I hope the best of luck for you and your husband. How long have you been married now?
32 years.
Ooh, I got a long way to go. I'm only at 13. So,
Yeah, and I also have two grown boys, so yes. But I appreciate being here. Thank you for letting me talk to your group, and absolutely, guys, just give me a call, send me a message. I'll be happy to talk to anybody. Let me help you with education and your child's success.
of course, we'll do. And this wraps up this episode of the Swandingo Files with Kristina, improving homeschooling and help improve parents so that way they can help their kids more in life. That's all for this time. Thank you.